morning and welcome to UPN Focus. I'm your host, Milt Thompson, and today we've got a wonderful show for you. We're going to talk about the world of city government, but in the form of our Parks and Recreation Department. We're going to do that with the Executive Director, the Director of Parks and Recreation, Joe Wynns. Joe, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Milt. It's a privilege and honor to be here, sitting and having this conversation with you. Excited about the new challenges the park system is looking forward to participating in, and just thank you for giving us the opportunity to share the information.
And you have along with you the Assistant Administrator of Parks and Recreation, Leslie Clark. Leslie, welcome to UPN Focus.
Thank you very much. We're excited to be here and share our information with everybody for the oncoming summer. We have a lot of activities planned and just need to get the word out to folks.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Joe, a lot of people will remember Joe Wynns back as a football player, Indianapolis Capitals, back in
1968, 69. People always ask, when they say, well, were you a football player? And they looked at me. I said, yeah, and I know they're saying to themselves, with a body like that, what happened? I used to have muscles.
Well, those days, they weren't quite as big as they are these days. And you've been in the Parks and Recreation Department for a long time, actually.
Since 1970. When I came to Indianapolis, as a matter of fact, I came here to play football, and I always remember that. And I played in like 68 and 69. Got here, I played 68, too cold, I went home. And I wasn't coming back, so I came back in 69, and I took a job as a summer recreation parks director at Riverside Park, and I tried teaching school that fall and just didn't fit, the fit wasn't there, and I decided to go back full-time, and my first job was at Riverside Center. I was the assistant center director. 1970, Bill Spencer was the director, and I said to myself, wow, I think this is something I can really enjoy doing. I always had a desire to work with kids, and of course I wanted to be a physical education teacher and a football coach, and when I got into the park system, I said, well, maybe I don't have to teach physical education, but I still have the access to kids, and I can still coach youth football and youth basketball, and I just stayed in it, and it was so exciting, and I just said to myself, well, maybe this should be a career for me. I'm fortunate enough to only have had two jobs, one as a school teacher and the rest of my career in Parks and
Has been in Parks and Recreation, and that career has now spanned 30 years.
30 years.
And so you've had different administrations, you've had different mayors for whom you've worked, and now you're in a new administration, Mayor Peterson administration, a little change of politics, but I'm not certain that has a significant degree to do with recreation services, but I know that it has to do something to do with the kind of vision that the mayor has and that he has for his executive cabinet. What kind of vision does the mayor and that you share relative to the direction of our Parks and Recreation Department?
Okay, let me run quickly. When we started off, Mayor Lugar had a vision also about his thing was physical fitness. Remember, we used to have the mayor's physical fitness program. And he still have the Lugar run. So he was really into physical fitness. And then, we got into Bill Hudnut, who was really into community service. He wanted to make sure that parks were accessible to just everybody. And then we got into to Steve Goldsmith's administration, and Steve's concept was that, parks should be well-maintained, kept safe, and we should then do the partnership piece to bring partners into the organization. And we got into that whole era of investing millions of dollars in the park system and rebuilding the park system. And so our focus was on infrastructure, well-maintained and safe. Our ranger program was birthed, and we went from 6 rangers to now 28. So we were really responding to the demand. People said that they didn't feel safe going into parks. We wanted more safety out there, more visibility. And so we kind of went to that whole infrastructure, rebuilding the park system, developing strong partnerships, and making the park safe. So that vision was through the whole Steve Goldsmith administration. Now, Mayor Peterson's vision is coming on the fact that how do we rebuild capacity utilization? Our thing is that, and in his whole campaign, he talked about he was driving around several parks, and he just didn't see the families or the Little League baseball programs or the softball programs, the concerts. He didn't see people in parks having a good time. Now, and that's kind of generic, because in certain parks where you can go to Garfield and you'll find that, or you can go to Cranard and you'll find that, a holiday park, and you can find that. But his whole tour of this whole urban neighborhood issue was the fact, why aren't kids and people and families enjoying themselves? So the vision we have now is called capacity utilization.
Getting people to the parks and getting them to use it, and take care with the wonderful, maintained, now safe facilities.
That's right.
So that there is the access. So you see the fitness, the access, and it all kind of fits together.
Fits together. I mean, so it's not anything that the past administration did wrong. I mean,
just different.
Just different. The infrastructure of the park system had collapsed. I mean, when Leon Younger came on in '92 and we entered into the Building Better Neighborhood system, he totally rebuilt the infrastructure of the park system. I think the number goes anyway from 79 to 80 million. You know, the Ranger program birthed because people saying that I didn't feel safe going to park.
Chamber of Commerce, we're talking about infrastructure generally, about city streets and the sewers, and it was also part of that study for Parks and Recreation as well.
That's right. So that was addressed. So now, the final leg now, since we got the infrastructure looking good, we have the rangers that is making them safe. Now we got two responsibilities. One is sustainability. We don't want the system to go back to where it was in '92, where outdated playground equipment, lead-based paint, you know, all of the issues out there.
So you want to get them, maintain them, and make sure that people are using them.
That's right. That's the vision. We want to make sure that we have them sustainable, that 10 years from now, that they are still going to look good, that they're still going to be in a good, attractive visual here where people will drive by and
they'll enjoy their parks.
That's right.
You got Leslie Clark here with you too. Leslie, your background in park recreation is what brought you to buy into this vision, if you will, and working in Parks Department.
Well, as I was growing up, my family was in the military, and we moved around quite a bit. And every time we moved to a new city, my parents would immediately enroll me in some kind of recreation program. That, you know, to get to know the kids in the new neighborhood, get to know the schools, and become familiarized. So I've grown up with that as a big part of my life. And, you know, as I went on to college, I found that as a career that really fit my interests and my needs. And I got my degree in recreation administration, in outdoor recreation as a specialty area. And I've been down in Bloomington working with their department for 10 years, and then I've been up here for the last 4 years. So.
And your primary responsibilities in administration, what are they?
Primarily in the programming area, so working with the different projects throughout the department, whether they be special events, day camps, swimming lessons, dance programs, just a whole variety of things.
So you didn't come from a football background like Joe?
No, I did not. I don't have that sporting expertise in my background.
But recreation and programs to work with the vision in terms of capacity utilization, being sure that our parks are being used, not only safe, maintained well, but used in a friendly and fun way.
Right.
We're going to talk about those programs right after these words. Welcome back to UPN Focus. Our special guest is Director of Parks and Recreation, Joe Wynns, and Leslie Clark, who's the administrator of Parks and Recreation and also has an effective approach to the programs. We talked about the vision of our parks, and the mayor has a vision about capacity utilization. Not only are our parks safe and engaging and attractive, but they ought to be full of people.
Right.
So Leslie, what kind of programs are we going to be looking for as we have turned the century here to attract people back to our parks?
Well, I really think this is going to be the era of programming. I mean, Joe has talked about previous eras where there have been different focuses and all which were necessary, but really we're going to sink our teeth into the programming aspect of our parks. We're going to be doing some traditional programming and some new things out there. We're going to be experimenting with some different programs and really working with our neighborhoods to determine what kind of things they want to see out there in their parks. We have, of course, your regular sporting programs, our pools and our swim lessons, our day camps. Those are really some of our core activities that we have going on out there. But But there are also a wide variety of specialty areas. If your interest happens to be dance or fly fishing, or it could be any number of things. We have a fencing group up at Garfield, some very particular interest groups out there. And I just think it's very exciting to have the initiative to move forward through this new era with Mayor Peterson with the programming.
My orientation has always been that when spring comes and summer comes, that's when I think of parks. But that's not really true of our parks department. We have programs that are year-round. We have community centers in our facilities. Tell us a little bit about that.
Let me jump in and just add one piece on the program piece, is the fact that our program structure is almost like in 3 or 4 segments. You have the independent programmer, and that's the person that just wants the greenways. I mean, they just want a facility to run on. And then we have the regional attractions like the Garfields, the Eagle Creek, where people look and say, that's where I'm going to take my family for a picnic or what have you. And then we have those community center pieces we talk about, which basically drives that neighborhood piece. But and so when we talk programs, and Leslie and I talk a lot about this, a lot of people think, well, why should the department even talk programs? See, we have about 113 parks, which is called our neighborhood park system. And those are those parks that are like within a mile square of a neighborhood, where people walk to. And that's where we look at our focus and our emphasis, because in some cases, there's not an opportunity for them to go to an Eagle Creek or to go to a greenway or go to a regional park like the conservatory, and so I've asked Leslie, because we will be challenged, I think, a little bit on the program piece, because if you ask people, some way say, there's enough programs, why should parks be in programs? And we don't want to go in and start everything new. Programming deals with partnerships, bringing partners in. There are some things that we have to do direct, to get it started, and hopefully partners will come in and backfill. So I just want to give that whole segment on programming, only because people ask the question, well, why are you talking programs, and why? But I can, it's like baseball has just about disappeared from the urban community. Soccer have disappeared from the urban communities. It's in the suburbia townships, but in that center township where we don't have organized soccer or organized baseball. I'm talking about not on a much larger base. I mean, I could remember the old, I'm going back on that a little bit, remember the junior baseball?
Junior baseball programs of years and years ago, of course.
We used to have 100 teams.
Right, at Riverside Park.
Riverside, that's right. And we had all the equipment. What was the guy, Ray Basso, was it Ray Basso? Used to run that program, and it just disappeared. Right. So I can go back and have those flashbacks on how the park system was really geared to doing things, and now, we trying to figure out, well, how do we do that, or how do we get partners to come back with us to help us do that?
Is it as easy as building a facility and having a program and having people show up, or has there been, since those old junior baseball days, a significant societal change that causes the governmental response to those problems to be different?
Well, I think it is, only because I think right now, in the junior baseball days, kids didn't have that, we didn't have that much to compete for. I mean, we didn't have the computers and didn't have the home videos and all the things that make kids stay at home. We actually now have to go out and recruit these kids. I mean, we have to actually go out and say, come to this program. And junior baseball days, and that's why I think a lot of the social issues are still there, because I'm not knocking the internet or knocking television shows or what have you, but there are some things that I have an 11-year-old, I wouldn't allow her to watch, because I just know the behavior may be fiction, but it could be implanted in her mind some way one day to live that out. And so what we try to do with the park system is offer families an alternative to the child just in that room watching computers, watching television, and we're competing with the movies and video games and the malls. And so we have it's not just as simple anymore as putting a brochure up and saying, sign your kids up for this. We used to be able to use the schools to sign up for a lot of our programs. And so we are still trying to figure out how to rebuild that system, how to bring strong partners from IPS and other organizations to the table, because clearly we can't go back and do it all ourselves. It has to be a partnership effort with existing organizations that are running programs, with agencies that are in the kids business, working with the Youth Institute, working with McCoy, working with all those agencies to say, how do we rebuild
and better service these people?
That's right.
Leslie, you, as a recreation professional, expert, if you
I'll
will,
talk the whole show.
No, that's all right. I'm really curious because you mentioned something earlier that you're going to try to go to these communities and find out what they want. Now, isn't that a little different from what has been past practice of programmers and saying this is what kind of program we have available, come take advantage of it?
Well, we've spent the last couple years making inroads to the community groups and working with the neighborhood councils. In some cases, we've even created park advisory councils to solicit that input and to let folks know it's okay to give us some ideas. We don't know it all. We don't know every neighborhood's every little detail, and we like their input. And what we found is when we draw them into that process is they become a partner with the parks. They become somebody who has a vested interest, and they may pay a little bit more attention to what's going on in the park, and they, may come out for a park cleanup maybe when they hadn't in the past. And so over the past 4 years, we've really worked steadily at doing that, and I think we're at a point now where we really have good support and good communication with those neighborhoods.
So you're going to give them what it is they are asking for versus what you think might be best for them.
Well, that is our ultimate goal, yes. We are here to serve those needs of the community, and as Joe stated, we can't do it with just our park staff, and we have some incredible partnerships out there, folks who have worked with us for years and new ones every year come on, and we work together, we work collaboratively, we join our resources together and really try to go out there and battle the conditions out there, the things that kids need, drawing kids into the programs and into the parks, into those positive experiences.
I want to ponder this before we take a break because I want to try to get an answer to it when we come back. But there are a lot of schools of thought these days about what parks and recreation departments should be to the citizenry, the taxpayers. There are schools of thought that said, well, why are parks departments in the business of golf, for example, when there are private golf course managers and country clubs or others that provide that kind of activity for those. There are others that say that parks and recreation departments really ought to be in just management of contracts versus that of actually having staff that develop programs. There are lots of schools of thought. I want to see how this fits into the current administration's vision, and we'll explore that with you and Leslie right after we come back. And welcome back to UPN Focus. We're with Joe Wynns and Leslie Clark of the Parks and Recreation Department. We were talking about some of the tough issues that park administrators have to grapple with. And that has to do with whether or not we should be in the business of golf courses or programming, and should we just allow our real estate that the city owns be for self-directed green spaces and leisure times, or should they not be in the business of transacting, buying property and selling land? How's the current administration's vision of that mesh and match with your capacity utilization approach?
Well, as it relates to land acquisition, the mayor have clearly stated several times that he is not against land acquisition. What he says is the fact that he did not run on buying land. His philosophy is that he believed that we need to build up the capacity utilization of young people in the park system. If there is an opportunity to purchase land and it doesn't compete, with his priority of capacity utilization, he told me, go for it. But in no means that's my number one priority. So we have to balance that along with the special interest groups that are pursuing dog parks or pursuing skateboard parks. I mean, we don't say that those services are not needed. However, there has to be an entrepreneurial opportunity, partnership, grants, and what have you to do that. If we get a grant from DNR to buy 80 acres of land, go for it. But as far as investing the tax dollars, as it comes to the golf courses and those private facilities, he feels, as well as I do, that those facilities should be managed by private operators as long as we can clearly identify a return back to the department to offset expenses. Clearly, if it's an opportunity, for instance, if this year in golf, or last year in golf, some of the proceeds from golf went into Leslie's program to offer scholarships for inner city kids to do day camps.
Should parks be revenue centers, or should they be available and accessible to all those, notwithstanding the affordability?
A mixed bag. We should have those facilities as clearly identified as enterprise facilities, golf courses, ice rinks, velodromes, BMX tracks, enterprise facilities. There should be a fee and charges to operate those. Then on the community rec side, your recreation centers, your pools, your playgrounds, they should be your centers of services. Some departments have taken, to deal with this conflict, some departments have taken their systems and have clearly created 2 tracks. One is called community recreation, where they put their community centers, their swimming pools, their day camps, their cultural arts programs in community rec.
So we've got them on both sides where they're, if you can afford to pay for them, they ought to support themselves, and others ought to be free.
That's right.
Leslie, before we go, I want to just get back to you, a couple of your pet programs, and how can people get involved, or how can people take advantage of them?
Well, we have, of course, a couple movies that we're doing this summer out in the parks in conjunction with UPN 23, and we're going to be at Garfield Park and at Northwest Way Park this summer. We're also going to be having the Zoo Mobile come out to some of our sites for the day camps and the supervised play programs, and you'll be able to see that out in the different parks and the neighborhood parks that we have out there.
And what do they call?
They call 327-PARK, P-A-R-K, and they can get all that information at one phone number.
And you're going to find out more information by watching our community calendar.
Here are some events in our area for you to focus on. Want something different to do at lunch? Why not try Brown Baggin' It? Every Thursday from noon to 1, bring your lunch to the Indiana State Museum and enjoy a free concert or lecture. Call 317-232-3512 for more information. Where can teens get help fast? At any place displaying the yellow and black diamond-shaped sign designating it as a safe place. These sites provide safe and immediate help for runaway, homeless, and in-crisis kids. To find out more about Project Safe Place, call 317-773-6342. If you are dealing with grief from the death of a loved one, Clarion Hospice Bereavement Program would like to help. Their next series of bereavement support groups are beginning soon. Call 317-241-2319 for dates and times. If you'd like to let our viewers know about your event, send your event details to Community Calendar, care of UPN 23, 4551 West 16th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana 46222.
I want to thank you right out there in the audience for the wonderful interest you've taken in our show. Keep letting us know what you want to hear about so we can have good programs like we've had today with Joe Wynns and Leslie Clark. Thank you for participating with us. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you right here next week.